Jay here for Stretford, Paddock. This is it. This is the big one. Manchester United versus Manchester City. The Manchester derby. Joining me, as always, is Mr. Joe Smith. Joe, you feeling confident about this? We're just going to brush these noisy neighbours aside.
Red versus blue.
Literally.
You know, black versus white.
If you want.
Chess. You know, vegetarian versus meat eaters.
Yeah.
Oat milk versus soy milk. East versus West. Manchester United versus Manchester City. These are the fundamental building blocks of humanity.
They are.
This is a huge
good
game.
Versus evil.
In this case, we're being good.
Obviously.
Just about. It's a massive game. It is massive. And it's massive for United's season. It's massive for City's season as well, because we're going to have to see Pep do his yearly, well, maybe the players just don't want to win it this year speech if we're not careful. And I'd like to be the ones that make him say it for once. Rather than some weird loss in Europe to, I don't know, Besiktas after they've already qualified, and then he has to start doing the rallying cry. Start it early and start it because we've given him a pasting. Finally, I want to see it.
Yeah, I agree. I couldn't think of anything better than to give them a pasting. Not just to win convincingly, although obviously I'll take any sort of victory over them lot. If we are going to win, one man who is going to be integral to any form of victory is Andre Onana. Absolutely sterling performance against Copenhagen with that last minute penalty, basically last kick of the game, which kept us in the Champions League. Decent performance, I felt, as well against Sheffield United. He seems to be coming out of this sort of shambolic spell he had. Against Bayern Munich, it wasn't great. Against Galatasaray and against Brentford, it was pretty woeful. He's been much better. We just want him to have a game where you don't talk about him. And I know we are talking about him, but it's to sort of highlight that he is going under the radar a little bit more. Obviously, a last-second penalty save isn't going under the radar, but you look at the 90 minutes, he made a couple of good saves, didn't make any mistakes. That's what I want to see. I don't need these heroics. Obviously, in this specific instance, the heroics were crucial because we would have been out on our arse if it weren't for that. But I'd like to, regardless of the final score, go after this game and say, Onana was decent today, wasn't he? Yeah, good game, fine game. I just want that. I just want him to not be a talking point for a few weeks, because it's been, either United are relying on him too much, which is weird, or he's made an absolute clanger, and there's been too many of them already this season. It's clearly a confidence thing, because he's not a goalie that just puts the ball in the back of his own net every week. But hopefully we can start building a bit of confidence now, and that save against Copenhagen, essentially winning us the game. Well, not essentially, winning us the game 100%.
is as good as you can get in terms of a confidence boost before a big game.
Needed for United and needed for Andre Onana. Another area that's vital is the midfield. Now, in his press conference, Erik ten Hag sort of said, well, Casemiro could be available, he could not. We don't know, to be honest with you. I think racing against time was the term that he used. So it's 50-50 whether he's going to play. We've obviously got Bruno, you've got Amrabat, you've got Eriksen, Mason Mount as well, if you want to consider him as well. We've got options in midfield. City, obviously, I think they're still missing De Bruyne, aren't they? I think he's been out for a little while, but they're very, very strong in that department. Is it one of those games where you think that's where it could be won and lost if we can win that midfield battle? Because in the past, when we've struggled against Man City at the Etihad last season, for example, it's because we got overrun in midfield. While we've done well, or when we've done well, like we did at Old Trafford, you've seen players like Fred stepping up and performing. I know he's not here anymore, of course, but do you think this could be where we see the sort of the battles won or lost? I
don't think we're going to dominate the midfield, but we have to not get dominated. And we've seen it against Wolves. We got dominated in midfield.
Massively.
Like against Tottenham in the second half, we did. A lot of games this season, that midfield battle, Brighton destroyed in midfield. They were just pissed through us like we weren't even there. That midfield, whoever he picks, and we'll get into predict 11s in a minute, but we can't get overran there. So if Casemiro's not fit, don't play him, because one of the things that he's struggled with this season already is turning and running back towards his own goal and being caught out positionally. If he's not fit enough to do that to his best, he'll get absolutely destroyed. And the problem is, I don't think our midfield is that good at the moment anyway. Like, you look at the form Casemiro's been in, not great. Mason Mount is sort of already being forgotten about, even though we signed him for 60 million quid. I don't know where he fits in, and I really like him, but we're struggling to find a place for him. Eriksen's only got 45 good minutes in him, because after that he gets knackered. Amrabat looks decent, but I think so far his performances have been whelming. You know, he's not really over or underdone it, but he's not exactly been amazing. And Scott McTominay, he looks good in the opposition box, but half the time he's jogging back towards his own goal when we're being counter-attacked. So that only leaves Bruno Fernandes, who it's not, you know, he's obviously a very good player. He's not quite at his best, but even if he was, he's not going to win you a midfield battle. You need passing from deep. You need physicality from deep. And personally, I think we're just going to have to pack it out, because any three of those sort of 6 or 7 players doesn't quite work at the minute. So I think we just have to get more in there, just overflowing with midfielders, because at the minute we haven't got a settled midfield that works.
No, I agree with what you're saying there. And yes, injuries play a part, but also just when you look at it and you go, okay, does the manager really know what he wants to do here? Because at one point it looked like he wanted to play Mason Mount as a deep line midfielder. Yep. He said that. He said he's going to have to change his game a little bit because I'm using him in a different position. Then he brings in Sofian Amrabat and you think, okay, is he going to use Amrabat and Mount as a deep line midfielder, or is Amrabat going to be alongside Casemiro? What's happening there? Then it's a case of, okay, well, is Bruno going to be in midfield like where he usually is, or is he going out on the right?
And he's played deeper a little bit as well.
Yeah, we've had him as a 6, we've had him as an 8, we've had him as a 10. We've had, him out wide. We've had Mount out wide.
With McTominay playing just off the striker.
Yeah,
he's trying so many things. You can tell he's struggling and he's frustrated with it, isn't he? Yeah. Because he's constant substitutions, half-time substitutions. Like you said, everyone's playing in every position. Ten Hag is like frantically trying to find a midfield that works. Yeah. And I feel a little bit sorry for him because, I guess we didn't, if Mason Mount turns out to not be the right signing, he obviously wanted him, so try and make it work. But there isn't really an obvious 3-man midfield that can compete with the top teams at the minute.
It's a shame as well, because you look at it and you go, okay, we've got some real quality there. Yeah. Bruno's quality, Casemiro's quality, Mason Mount, Christian Eriksen, Amrabat. These are good players, very good players. But it just seems a little bit messy. Personally, I'd like to see Bruno a bit further up the pitch. I prefer him in that sort of 10 role. I think that's where he plays his best football. And I thought Copenhagen, when he came forward, he pushed forward. I know it's a different kettle of fish compared to Manchester City, but I thought the team as a whole was much, much better when we started getting Bruno more on the ball in that final third. With all that being said, let's get into our predicted 11s. We'll start with you. Yeah. Just talk us through your team, who you've gone for, and why.
The back 5, unless he wants to bring Wan-Bissaka in, but again, it feels a pretty tricky one to throw him back in when he's not played for 2 months. Yeah. I think the back 5 picks itself pretty much. I think there's no reason to drop Maguire after the couple of games he's had, and Reguilon's only fit left back. Varane's obviously going to start if he's fit, and again, like I said, Dalot and Onana pick themselves. I've gone, and it's sort of a hybrid formation this. So in possession, it looks like this. It's a 4-3-3 essentially. Yeah. Maybe McTominay pushing slightly forward, or Amrabat and McTominay kind of taking turns. But out of possession, we revert to a sort of diamond. So Fernandes tucks right in, McTominay and Amrabat slightly further forward trying to win the ball back, and you've got Casemiro sweeping deep. Maybe even Amrabat kind of roaming to try and sort of, rustle the ball out a little bit.
Like the role Fred do, last season. That's exactly what he did.
Exactly that role. Yeah. Because that's what he did last season. He started with 4 midfielders. Well, it was Eriksen, Casemiro, Fred, and Bruno last season, wasn't it?
Nah, I can't remember. I remember Fred doing a very good job. Yeah. Just on McTominay, obviously scored those 2 goals against Brentford, and then scored the goal against Sheffield United as well. There are some question marks though about his performances in midfield. I think his stats against Sheffield United he had 3 forward passes. Sorry. Yeah. So there's still people who questioning whether he deserves to be in there. Do you think the manager will keep... You obviously think the manager will keep faith with him in that midfield. Why do you think that is? What do you think? Do you think it's the goals? Do you think he's been unfairly criticised? Do you think he does bring something different to the side? What is it? Why would he be keeping his place?
I don't think he's been unfairly criticised. I think he's been poor overall. Yeah. And we were looking at the other night, for the first 35 minutes against Copenhagen, a team which is obviously, no offence, not as good as United, and that proved itself to be the case. Let's not be silly. We're at Old Trafford. In the first 35 minutes, he made 8 passes. Right. And I think he ended the half with 13 or something, which even so is ridiculously low. But for the first 35 minutes, where you want to establish the flow of the game, how this game's going to look, here's the pressure, here's who we are, you sit back and we'll break you down. 8 passes from your midfielder. That is horrendous. Yeah. That's just a man who might as well not be on the pitch. You could have taken him out and not lost anything. He didn't make a tackle. I think he sort of, what's the word called, where you sort of retrieve the ball, like you kind of pick it up from whatever. I think
interceptions or...
No, it's like, turnovers or whatever it is. He did that 3 times, and that was basically all he did. And I just think that is horrendous. However, if we are sitting back against Man City, I think off the ball, in a deeper set of circumstances when he's got less room to get his positioning wrong, if we're sat against our own box, which we will be for decent chunks of this game, he's got less space to fuck it up.
Right.
And he can get stuck in, and he will run out and get caught, but you'll have 2 people behind him. I just think he's not good enough. And, overall, I think we all know that. But I think if he's ever going to be okay, this is the sort of game where he can, because we aren't going to have as much of the ball. I expect City to have 60% plus, even though it's at Old Trafford. You've just got to be realistic. And I think he can work in that circumstance. But if you want to control a game and play out from the back, he's not that guy. 8 passes in 35 minutes is just all the proof you need of that.
I get it. I get what you're saying.
Yeah.
I do.
Go on, what's your team? Let's have a look at yours.
My team's this, right? And I'll be honest with you. If Casemiro isn't fit, because we're going 50-50 here as to whether he's going to be fit.
Yeah.
If he isn't fit, if I'm Erik ten Hag, I pick Hannibal. And I know you're saying, what, 20-year-old kid who's played 2 games, whatever, this season. I would 100% pick Hannibal over Scott McTominay for this game. I wouldn't even bat an eyelid at it. And now people might say, "Oh, Jay, you've got it in from McTominay. He scored these goals and all the rest of it." Listen, he did score those 2 goals against Brentford, very well taken goals, and he deserves his flowers for that. Obviously, the well taken goal against Sheffield United as well, the chest control and the finish was fantastic. But in midfield this season, he's been poor. Yeah. He was poor against Sheffield United despite the goal. He was poor against Bayern Munich when he came on. He was poor against Brighton. He was poor against Copenhagen. Like, where's the evidence for this midfield performance where you go, he's going to be, and I'm not criticising you for what you're saying, but I understand your point, but where you go, he's going to be able to do this against Manchester City. I don't think he is. I think the only reason I'd use him against Manchester City is genuinely if you're chasing the game with 10 minutes to go. And just stick him.
Fellaini role.
Yeah, honestly, I would. And I think it's such a sort of basic way of doing, of managing a team where you go, he scored, put him in. What? Like, okay, I get it. After the Brentford game, it's a bit hard because he scored 2 late goals. You think, but you put him in and he scores, but you can see the level of performance isn't there in midfield, and you go, just stick with him. It doesn't make any sense to me, that, especially the role that you're using him for, because you're not even asking him to play like a 10 or play off the striker or whatever, where he's been getting forward and doing his best. A lot of the time, he's in the middle of the pack. He's an 8, or he's even dropping back to the 6, and he's ineffective.
Yeah.
He doesn't collect the ball enough. He doesn't put enough tackles in. He doesn't make enough passes. He's just there. And listen, I understand why Scott McTominay's in the squad. I think he does have traits that you can use. But for me, it'd be from the bench, and it'd be, if we're chasing the game, it wouldn't be starting, because I don't think he's got what it takes to go toe-to-toe with some of City's midfield. And I think someone like Hannibal, despite his youth, has even, and I'm not just trying to hate on Scott McTominay here, even Kobe Mainoo would get in ahead of him for me. Yeah. If he was fit. He would. He just would. I think he brings more to that midfield. And you might disagree, and by all means get involved in the chat and the comments. But I've gone with Casemiro because I think he will be fit. But if he's not, and I think Erik ten Hag might actually look at it and go, I need to win these midfield battles. Who's my best player I've got to do that? It might be time to reactivate the Hannibal. Honestly, get involved in the comments and let us know.
See that.
The front 3, I've put Bruno out in the midfield because I think he brings a little bit more to that. I get your point, and I do think this manager really likes Anthony. And I think as well, when you pay between 70 and 100 million euros, depending on who you read, for a player, and it's the biggest game this season. I know I say the big one for everyone, but this actually is. I think you start him. So I expect Anthony to start. Højlund and Rashford. He spoke about Rashford today in his press conference, saying he's not overly, I'm paraphrasing, not overly concerned about his lack of goals. The goals will come. He'll keep his place, and Rasmus Højlund will keep his place too. And I think that if you've got someone like Alejandro Garnacho from the bench, I think he can have a big impact like he did last season.
I think against City as well, when quick balls forward and intricate balls around the edge of the box to kind of catch him out, I think Eriksen and Mount will have a big role to play as well. Eriksen in particular, we saw it last season in a lot of big games. He can get overrun, but I think, again, if you have him as a second half sub, even a half-time sub, like we saw against Copenhagen, he's got the legs for 45 minutes. If we're chasing a game, or even, we're drawing or a narrow lead, him on the ball to just put his foot on it and slow things down is crucial, because at times it's a bit frantic, I think.
No, you make a really good point about Eriksen, sorry. And I wasn't trying to dismiss him when I mentioned him. When I mentioned Hannibal and Kobe Mainoo, I just think they're different types of players. But certainly, if you do want someone who can do those things you've spoken about, then Eriksen is an option, Mason Mount is an option. The difficulty you've got is you've got lots of options in that midfield, but they're all slightly flawed in some way.
Yeah.
Like there's a little thing that goes against him. Like with Eriksen, he's fantastic on the ball. He can dictate the pace of the game. He can create chances, but he can be a bit weak sometimes if you're up against it. If it's a physical game, somebody can get you goals, but there's flaws in his games. Mount is a good player, but he's not started very well, and there's still question marks about how he fits into this team. Mainly, he was a child.
Yeah.
Hannibal's not played many games, and he can be a little bit erratic, especially his temperament. So it's like every single player offers something, but there's like a caveat of you might get that from him, but you're sacrificing that.
You beat you at that. But no one is like this three together is perfect.
No. Do you know what I mean? Do you remember when we had that brief spell when we were dominating under Ole? It was like you had Matic, Herrera and Pogba, and those three just worked well together. Yeah. They were all slightly flawed in some way, but they all complemented each other really perfectly for that like those 10 games, whatever it was. Yeah. You need something like that where players can just complement each other, so they're not all amazing. They're not all like, the 3 Brian Robsons, whatever. Yeah. But you've got 3 players that when you put them together work well. I still feel like we're looking for that combination.
Me too.
Let's talk about the opposition, Joseph, because as you mentioned earlier, City are they're not exactly flying.
No, they've had a few, don't they?
Yeah, they've had a few ropey ones. Obviously, the losses to Newcastle and the Carabao, Wolves and Arsenal in the league. Also, the win against Brighton, I think from what I read and what I saw, they were very good in the first half, not as good in the second half. Young boys, not that great, although obviously they won 3-1 away from home, so it's not like they had a terrible game. But it just feels to me as though City haven't really got going yet.
No. This feels more like the City that we faced at Old Trafford last season rather than the one that we faced in the FA Cup final.
Yeah, when they just flying,
they just won like 14 of their last 15 games, or whatever it was.
As they often do, unfortunately.
And they've lost 3 of their last 6 games. That's not good. That's Manchester United levels of form. Like, genuinely, I think ours might be better than that.
Well, if we win this game, we go, I know it's a big if, we go 3 points behind them.
Yeah.
So you can't say one team's having a storming season, the other team's having a disaster, when there's only potentially 3 points between them at the end of the game.
Exactly. And they've been knocked out of the Carabao Cup as well, haven't they? So
that's the most important trophy.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? That's like the only trophy that really matters is the Carabao.
We know what they're like. We know pretty much for a fact they can batter us. We can't batter them.
No.
So this is going to be a game where we have to keep it close. Because if you say to me at the end of the game, or someone says to me, "Wow, I can't believe they absolutely battered them like that," we know it's City battering us.
I don't like to use this as well, because I think it's not the players' fault. If the players get overrun or just dominated by a team, sometimes they're not good enough, or there's not much they can do. But I also think there is going to be that added bit of poignancy because it's Bobby Charlton is going to be remembered for the first home league game since he passed away, and that adds a little bit to it, doesn't it? Where you're thinking, come on, maybe use that emotion, use that sort of occasion to sort of drive you a little bit more. I know the crowd will definitely be up for it, but those are sort of romantic ideals that sometimes don't, unfortunately, play in football. I remember the 50th anniversay of Munich.
I think about that game a lot,
Yeah, we were fantastic that season. We won the double, the big double, the Champions League and the Premier League. And yet we wore the 1950s shirts, and there was a lot of tears and emotion before the game, and we didn't turn up.
No. I remember watching that on telly with my dad. Yeah. And the first 15 minutes we were like, we are not here today.
No,
like the whole team, it was slow, it was boring, it was
City weren't the City they are now.
No,
this was City where they finished like 11th or whatever that season. So I'm hoping it doesn't have the negative effect on the team. With everything we've said, give us your score predictions, my friend.
That's just to sort of repeat what I was just said before. We have to keep this game close. This has to be a low scoring game.
Yeah.
Cause, I mean, I'd love to see us win 3 or 4-0, but I don't see it.
Okay.
So we have to pack out the midfield, make it a little bit stodgy, make it difficult for them, be more physical than they are, some tactical fouls, things that we don't do enough of, and then we have to break really well. And I think one good thing about this team is you've got Marcus Rashford, who up there with Kylian Mbappe is one of the best counter-attacking players in the world, just skill set wise. His pace, his finishing, his ability to score at full speed is remarkable. You've got Rasmus Højlund, who we saw the goal against Galatasaray. He's got the pace. Again, he's got that physicality and size as well. If you've got a defender trying to spin while he's running past him, he'll knock him out of the way. So I think we will have a goal threat. And I say this before every single game, and every single big game, we have to score our first chance. or certainly one. We can't miss our first 2 chances. We did it. Sorry, we did it in the FA Cup final. We had little chance here and there, missed it. Little chance here and there, missed it. The game's over. If we have 3 chances against City in the whole game, 2 of them have to go in, or we'll lose.
Okay.
So that first chance in particular is so crucial. When it happens, if we see a post, if we see a flashed it wide, swing and a miss, I think we'll lose. It's got to be so tight. So. Honestly, I'm going for a slightly hopeful 1-1.
A 1-1? Would you say that now?
Yeah.
You would?
Yeah, you'd have to.
I don't think... no, I wouldn't.
Would you not?
No.
Fucking hell.
I think we can win this.
I think we can, but I think the odds are against us.
I think a draw, I get your point. You'd feel a sense of relief.
Yeah.
I say no pleasure in saying this about playing Manchester City at home, by the way, but there would be a sense of relief of, okay, a draw isn't embarrassing. That's not the end of the world. I can live with that. And then you can maybe sort of twist it into, all right, it's 3 wins and 1 draw in our last 4 games.
Yeah.
It's decent form. But I think this is a game you can win. And I say this about Erik ten Hag a lot. I think Erik ten Hag, for me, has won. My only criticism of him is, or one of the criticisms, he's won every game I expect him to win. And people go, well, what about all those home wins against Arsenal, City and Barcelona? I expect us to win at home. I do. I'm sorry. Even against the likes of Manchester City or Liverpool or Arsenal or Barcelona, I think we should be winning our home games.
Yeah,
we should. And even for this game, I know it's going to be very difficult, and it's not likely, but I think we can win, and I think we will. I'm going to go for it. I think I agree with your point about goals and stuff, and I don't see us getting a clean sheet, so I'm going to go 3-2. I think there's going to be goals in it, and I think we can outscore them. We've got to turn up though, and I think you'll know within 5 minutes what the score's going to be, whether we're going to win or not. You'll know straight away.
Or whether it's going to be a close game or not.
You'll know. If we turn up like we did against Copenhagen,
we've lost.
So forget it. Yeah. Seriously. I'll be on my way home from Old Trafford in the 5 minutes into the game. You remember my mates, I didn't go, but my mates left. A few of my mates left at half time, when we were 2-0 down against City.
It was the worst game I've ever seen.
In 2019, whatever it was, when they was going to win the league at the Etihad. And we turned it around the Paul Pogba game.
Oh, sorry, I thought you meant the 2-0 at Old Trafford.
No. I mean, that was horrible.
Yeah.
But a few of them were messaging me from the pub at beginning of the second half. And I was just like, I don't blame you, because they thought City going to win and get the trophy. And the fireworks and all the rest of it. But obviously that wasn't to be. Get your phones out. Film yourselves in landscape. 30 seconds. Just takes 30 seconds to come on this channel before the match. You're going to be part of the pre-match build-up. Give us your score predictions. Just film yourself. Let us know your score predictions. Send them to paddockmatchday@gmail.com. We will use them before the game. So in the pre-match build-up, you'll be a part of that. Joe's going to be here. You're going to have...
Everyone's here.
Everyone. Joe McGrath's here. Ronnie's here. Angie's here. We're going to have a City fan here so you can boo him. If we win as well, I'm going to jet back from Old Trafford to come and chat to you because I'll be wanting to get involved in all that. Last time at the home game in the league, it was my birthday as well. It was a fantastic birthday.
What a
birthday. Hopefully, it'll be like a birthday on Sunday. Joe, big thank you to you as always. Where can people find you?
Yeah, just on here on Sunday shitting myself on the watch along.
And you'll see me on here after the game as well, I'll be coming back to bask in the glory of our win. Don't forget to hit like, share and subscribe. That's been Joe Smith. I've been Jay Moy. This has been the Manchester United versus Manchester City Premier League preview. Thanks for watching.